It's that Airbnb one where everyone says, oh, it'll never work, no one will ever do that, and you'll never be able to, but it does work. It's just it's hard work, but you can make it work.
So we are on our way to the office of Feasted. They got quite a story, and they're a startup that I'm a real fan of. The thing is, I've known them for 6 months. We did a podcast back in the day, and now we're just gonna visit their office and see what's inside.
Thank you for inviting us to your office. So can you start by introducing yourself, what the business does in terms of the value it provides to customers and users?
I'm Hugo. I'm the co-founder and CCO of Feasted. And we were founded in early 2017 with the intention of booking catering easy. So our whole premise is very much the same as many other marketplaces, but to this industry. We launched with around 100 of who we saw as being the very, very best street food traders across London, who you were able to book online in much the same way that you would book a property on Airbnb or book flights through a website, that kind of thing. And it's basically just making the process super simple. We have since then increased to around 1,000 caterers on platform. So while we have a huge range of options available for people to book on Feasted, we very much see ourselves as a managed marketplace. So curation is very much at the forefront of what we do. We are now working with a number of mobile bars as well, who you can also book through the platform. And our aim is to transition into a 360 events booking platform. So not only would you be able to book your food and your alcohol for your party, you would also be able to book your photographer, your staffing, and we're starting to make our first inroads into that at the moment, which is very exciting.
Usually startups go through some iterations before they find the perfect product market fit. How did that journey play out in the case of Feasted? Did you start with a core value proposition that has remained intact, or has it evolved and changed? I would like to hear about that.
I would say that it hasn't changed in any ways that we didn't totally anticipate. The core value proposition has stayed pretty similar, which is giving people great services for their event that are easily bookable and take away the stress for them. And I would say that's never, our sort of mission has always been on course for that, from when we conceived the idea to launch to where we are now, about to go into 2020. But there have been some, of course, there have been a lot of iterations along the way. We now have the platform working in a brilliant way where the majority of our inquiries are coming through SEO, and we have a very refined way of doing AdWords at the moment. But the reality was, at the start, a lot of it was us going out, selling our service to people and getting them excited about the idea of using the platform. And you briefly touched on the fact that this didn't exist in the industry beforehand, and you're completely right. And that's a major reason why we started it. There are a couple of other players in the event space, but we see ourselves as being this managed marketplace, which guarantees quality if you're booking a supplier through.
I mean, that's the thing. I think that's very reasonable to focus on the quality aspect. From an outsider's perspective, you can say, okay, let's build up a platform. On the one hand, there are the sellers, the vendors, and on the other hand, there are people who want to book. But it's just not that simple. You have to ensure the quality for the business to work. So how do you achieve that? So
a lot of it is just through, we have a supply department, and their job is to vet suppliers who come on, and we have a number of criteria, and I'll look at this from the food perspective, because that's the majority of what we're doing at the moment, although we're looking to move away from that. We have quite a few strict rules regarding documentation, the things that you would think about: insurance, hygiene. I won't bore you with the details around that, but they're quite stringent. So you would think that you're guaranteeing people who, at the very least, are taking their businesses very, very seriously to have all of this documentation. Secondly, a huge part of it is the aesthetic of how a setup looks, how their food looks, how they're doing their own branding. Again, it's a really good indication of who's taking their business seriously, because the people who are willing to invest in great photography, great branding. You get the sense of how proud they are of their business. These are the guys you know are going to be fantastic to work with. And then we also, a lot of it's learned over time now with the experience that we have, but we have a number of checkpoints that we can use to, we can get out of a conversation with someone in the early stages to work out, you know, how efficient are they going to be, how reliable, how many events have these guys done before, how can we put ourselves in a position where we're not putting Feastit's name at risk when we, and you know, people have an event with them and come back and say, wow, Feastit delivered me a fantastic caterer. And then of course there's the product side of things as well. You know, when you're selling people food, it has to be brilliant food, and you know, we make sure that we only work with suppliers who their product is fantastic.
So let's focus on London for a bit, because this show is called Startups of London, and
yes,
the idea is to actually understand the ins and outs and the best and the worst about being in London. So what has your experience been with that?
Well, the reality is I think it would be very hard for us to be anywhere else, it's an amazing hub for tech companies at the moment, and I would actually say one of the biggest benefits is the network that's out there for startups, which is incredibly welcoming. So as sort of a kind of basic basic benefit, that is probably number one. We go to a lot of meetups, hugely experienced people are giving us advice all the time, and people are so welcoming about it. You know, you send anyone a LinkedIn message, anyone an email, nearly everyone always goes for a coffee. It's great. And then in terms of London, I mean, you have fantastic food across the whole country, but London is a real melting pot for some really forward-thinking, brilliant traders who we work with. And you know, like a lot of companies, I think we started primarily in London was our focus, and making sure that our London market worked. And we've got to a point now where I think we are doing that. We have a lot of, we think we have a good number of the best traders available. We're working with a lot of events and event organisers in London to kind of bring our service to them. We've done that, I think, quite well, and now we're looking to sort of move out from that. It's been a fantastic place, and I think for our employees as well. This might be unfair, but we've found that there are so many fantastic people. There's such a brilliant pool of employees who are living in London, and people love it as a city, and there's always so much going on in terms of the social perspective, in terms of food events, in terms of general events. So I personally couldn't see our company could be anywhere else at the moment, I would say. Although the problem with it, of course, is there are so many brilliant startups that the competition for roles can always be very, very high. And you know, when you're speaking, it's a bit like the London housing market, which is that when you see something you really like, you've got to snap it up because otherwise they get taken up elsewhere.
People usually think businesses are built on tech and code and on sales, which is absolutely true, but it's not the whole story. It's also built on people who you hire and the team grows. So the people you bring together actually make up the business. But it's not only the individual personalities, there's also a shared common ethos, which we usually call company culture.
Yeah.
So I'd really like to hear about what characterizes the culture here at Feastit.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but I think we have a strong culture, and at the very core of it is empowering people to push the business forward on an individual level, which for me is the most important part of not only our culture but us as a business in a big way. We like to think that there is very little hierarchy when it comes to ideas. So from the most junior person to some of the more senior, if you come with a good idea and we think it's a good idea, we're going to make sure that it gets done. And so we love people coming in and trying to think critically about the way that we're doing things, and recognise the fact that we're only a couple of years old and there's a lot that we're not going to be doing right at the moment, and we want people who come in and don't just go with the status quo. We want people to come in and think, no, you're doing that wrong, and this is how we can start thinking about fixing it. And for me, getting people in who push us on that front is genuinely the most important thing by a long way. And we try and find as many ways as possible to empower people to do that. And a major reason as to why we started this business was because my co-founder and I didn't necessarily enjoy going to work at our last jobs every day, and what's the point in working if that's not the case, right? And that's what we're trying to do here, is make sure that everyone can come in, work with your friends and have a good time.
I'm Kenan, I'm a growth engineer at Feastit. I've been here for about 3 weeks now. So it involves a lot of coding. I'm a front-end developer, and a lot of SEO, analytics, and I guess working on the main product as well.
And I'm Melanie, I'm a digital marketing manager, and I've been here for just over, 1 year last week actually. I look after various things, including a lot of our PPC. I do all of our email comms, some of our paid social media, blogs as well, so sort of across a lot of different things. I love working here. I had my review last week, and I said I don't get the Sunday blues coming in, which sounds like a small thing, but actually having worked in a few other places, yeah, it's a big thing. I never dread coming into work. It's partly down to the fascinating stuff that we're doing. It's really exciting. It's ever changing. But it's also down to the people and the environment that we've created here. That's a genuine pleasure to come in every day.
Yeah, so I'm quite new, so but it's obviously been great so far. They onboarded me really quickly. It was great. Everyone's very friendly here, and within the first sort of 2 weeks, I had met all of the different heads of departments, and they all introduced me to the different areas of the business, which was really helpful. And yeah, I think I've met everyone now individually as well, and everyone's very nice.
It's definitely grown in size. I think when I started a year ago, we were about 12 people, and now we're 30 or 31, so it's definitely a lot busier in the office, which has sort of opened it up to a lot more collaborative work. I think it's always been a collaborative company. You're always encouraged to sort of get out of your box and not just stay within your team, but now with more people, there's more opportunity than ever to do that, to work cross-functionally across different teams. And like Kenan said, everyone here is so bright, so smart and excellent at what they do. So there's just so much opportunity to learn from different people as well as you're collaborating with them. Everyone has their skill set. And also, I think what's really nice is nobody really views themselves as a finished product. Everyone's an expert in what they do and knows their stuff, but actually is just as keen to carry on learning and learn about what you're doing. And yeah, everyone's sort of really nice and humble in that way. Nobody sees himself as, I know everything, and that's a really rare thing as well in my experience.
So how does the financial aspect of that play into growth? And what I specifically want to ask is regarding your history of funding, to the extent you're able to share, of course. Did you bootstrap at any stages in terms of angel seed and Series A? So what's the journey over there?
So the journey is that we had some, we a very, very limited kind of amount when we first started that let us go for about 3 months, by the end of which we said that we would have to raise our first angel round, which we were able to do. So we were very, very lucky along the way. We worked with a brilliant design agency called Neverbland, who designed our website, and they've worked for the likes of sort of Bulb and Airbnb in the past, and we had a fantastic relationship with them. So it meant that we had a very, very good-looking, it wasn't even built yet, but good-looking set of JPEGs basically that we could show to potential investors and say, look, it's a simple product, this is what it does, and this is how it's going to work. It's a very simple message, and we were able to get some agents on board, and the way we found them was completely random. There was no set way of doing that. It was all about hitting up hundreds of people on LinkedIn, like sitting down, sending 400 LinkedIn messages in a day.
Only in London,
and they would introduce someone who would introduce someone who would then say, I have a friend who does this and such, and it was a very long-winded journey, and certainly the hardest round that we have done. But very, very fulfilling, and allowed us to kind of kick things off.
Let's talk about the tech tools your business depends on. So if you were to take a look at the list of the SaaS products that you've subscribed as a business, what would top those lists?
We've used a CRM system called Pipedrive since we launched, and it has been fantastic for us because we have I can't even think as to what it looked like when we first launched. But yeah, I mean, we keep modding it every single day. And, you know, there's talk about us potentially moving over to Salesforce at some point. But Pipedrive has really, really supported us up until this point and been fantastic. And I'd really personally recommend it as an early stage CRM system for startups looking for one. We've been using Drip for our email campaigns. And that has been brilliant for us in terms of customers because it just allows us to send through really targeted email campaigns. You're able to put together really good looking emails very easily, and it's been great. And then probably Mixpanel as well. So it gives us a huge amount of data insight into how our customers and how our suppliers are using the platform.
So let's focus on the future for Feasted. What are some key milestones ahead?
Our real goal is to become this 360 events agency, so giving people the ability to book multiple services through our platform. It's not going to be easy at all, and we're trying to conduct our research into all of these other areas and get it absolutely right, and it can be quite complicated, and the reason that we're in this industry is because it is so complicated. It's our job to make it easy, and it's highly confusing, particularly when you haven't done it before. And we're trying to take away 90% of the stress that you have around organising something that's so complicated. It's an odd one because the events industry it's very old school, so it's huge and it's been around for forever. And there's this sort of idea within it, you know, you kind of it's kind of what everyone says about. It's that Airbnb one where everyone says, "Oh, it'll never work. No one will ever do that, and you'll never be able to." But it does work. It's just it's hard work, but you can make it work. But that's our big push is to bring all of the other services online, and we want to be able to do it in the same managed marketplace way. So you are guaranteeing high quality with good businesses if you book through Feast.
Again, thanks for inviting us to your office. I think this has been a very pleasant interview, and I think people who listen to this will learn a lot, both about the business and both about being a successful founder and using the tools. And so again, thanks for being a part of this. Appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.